A major change for the minority party ahead on Face the State. After 3.5 years as House Minority Leader, State Representative Allison Russo is bowing out of the role. Leader Russo joins me in studio to discuss the decision, her future, and the big debate going on over the big state budget. Are your property taxes going through the roof? A new bill at the State House aims to cut billions of dollars in property taxes to give you some relief. But what could you lose in exchange? Plus, it looks like a simple flag raising, but this one is heavy with history and symbolism at the State House, a Juneteenth milestone. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. Ohio lawmakers are racing to the finish line on the state's two-year, $61 billion operating budget. A vote is expected this week. They have to get a final version to the governor by June 30th. As the General Assembly wraps up its business on this major legislation, the House Minority Leader is wrapping up her business in that leadership role. State Representative Allison Russo of Upper Arlington has served as House Minority Leader since January of 2022. Early this month, Russo announced she is stepping down as Minority Leader at the end of June to pave the way for a smooth transition of leadership before the legislature's summer break. She said she wanted to stay in leadership through the operating budget negotiations. She also said any decisions about her political future will come at a later time. Joining me now to talk about the transition, what's next, and the state budget is Ohio House Minority Leader, State Representative Allison Russo. State Representative, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Doug, for having me.
Absolutely. So why is now the right time for you to step away from leadership?
Yeah, well, I think any good leader knows that timing is key, and we are finishing up probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that we do in the legislature, and that is to pass the state operating budget. We'll be going into a long summer break before coming back later in September. And so it's a good time. It's a good time to transition, to get the new team settled, and to help with that transition. And we will have the budget behind us. And so, you know, I said in the beginning to my caucus members I would get them through the budget. So here we are. And you know, it's time to move on and pass the torch to someone else.
And you've chosen not to endorse a successor. Why not?
Well, it's important to me that the caucus make this decision about what the leadership of the caucus looks like next. That said, there appears to only be one candidate, or person who's put their name in the ring for the next minority leader. You know, a couple of other positions that are up for competition. But again, you know, I respect the process of my caucus and want to be supportive of whatever that leadership team looks like.
Who is that person, can you say?
So it appears that the next leader is likely to be Representative Denny Isaacson from the Cincinnati area, and he's been part of my leadership team for the last 2 years. So, you know, I'm excited to see him possibly move into this.
Do you feel
role.
it'll be a smooth transition with him if it does end up that way?
Oh, most certainly. I think it will be a smooth transition no matter who is at the helm. I have worked pretty hard over the last several years and during my time as the minority leader to make sure that we've got good infrastructure, both on the political and the official side. We've got incredible staff that we've brought in over the last couple of years. And so I feel confident that whoever takes over in those leadership roles will be able to continue that work and continue to grow the caucus and our priorities.
What would you say that you're most proud of, I guess, in your 3.5 years as leader as far as accomplishments go?
Well, I think there are many things that I am proud of. You know, certainly the work that we did last General Assembly to continue to protect and fully fund our public schools with the Fair School Funding Plan. You know, certainly that is at risk in this budget, but we fought really hard to build collaboration across the aisle to protect that. I think I'm also, you know, this is less on the legislative side, but the team that we have been able to build, we both picked up seats, and so a talented pool of members, even though we are small, but also the staff that we've been able to bring in over the years and add, you know, a level of professionalism and expertise that helps our members also be successful.
So what's next for you?
Well, as I've said, I am taking July off. I want to spend some time with my family.
Your son just graduated,
I have a
right?
son who graduated. He's going off to school, so we're going to get him settled. And have real serious conversations, not only with my family, but a trusted circle of people around me to I think make a decision about what is next. I do not think that my time in public service is done. And so I'm looking forward to what that next adventure will be. But I will finish up my time in the General Assembly. I certainly will not be quiet and still be a voice on many issues.
And you're term limited, right? This is your last term in the House.
That's right. It is my last term in the House, but I will be able to complete that term through the end of 2026.
Now, of course, your name has been brought up as a potential candidate for a bunch of different offices. We've heard it for governor, possibly for U.S. senator and other positions. Are you looking at those possibilities?
Well, I have not taken anything off the table. It's always nice when your name is thrown out. But for me, it really is about what makes the most sense for me and my family. And for me moving forward. So have not taken anything off the table, but have not made a decision either.
Do you have a timeline?
I do. I would like to be able to make this decision certainly before the end of the summer.
Okay, primary will be here before we know it if you decide to go in that direction.
Right.
So what do you think the Democratic Party needs to do now to win back some of these seats? We saw Sherrod Brown lose, and the main offices here in the state are Republican held.
Well, I think certainly the last election was a reckoning for us. I think we, in spite of it being a not very favorable election cycle for Democrats, both nationally and statewide, we had some real successes in the legislative races and actually picked up a couple of seats in spite of that. And what we found to be successful, and I think there's a lot that our state party can learn from that, and Democrats in general, and that is keeping our message and the message overall focused on cost of living for people. People want to be able to go to sleep at night knowing that they have financial security. And what is it that we can do to speak to those issues that really matter to people in terms of building their financial security for the future and making sure that we are investing in children who will be our future and the future strength of this state.
Well, speaking of that, of course, you mentioned the budget negotiations are going on. It's the 2-year state operating budget, about $61 billion. How are the negotiations going right now? And I guess, what are your biggest concerns heading into a possible vote next week?
Well, I have huge concerns about this budget. The budget was recently passed by the Senate last week. It is now what we call conference committee. It will come out of conference committee, be voted by us this week, and then go to the governor's desk. But it is full of broken promises. I mean, we see major underfunding of our public schools. We see a flat tax or a tax break for the wealthiest Ohioans that is at the expense of middle-class families and working families, is at the expense of health care for many Ohioans. We've got hospitals that are at risk of closure right now, not just because of what is happening in Congress with that big, beautiful scam, what I call it, but also what is happening in the state budget. We have lack of investment in child care, which we know is a huge need for working families and cost us well over $5 billion per year and loss in economic revenue in this state, loss of services for our senior citizens. So there is a lot not to like about this budget. It needs significant changes because it benefits the wealthy at the expense of everyday Ohioans, and there will be real long-term damages because of it.
Republicans have said, though, that the money's not there this year like it has been in the past, that the budgets are getting tighter, so they need to cut to have a balanced budget.
Well, I disagree with that. This is self-imposed scarcity. The money is not there because over the last few years, we have given well over $5 billion in income tax cuts that most Ohioans, the average Ohioan makes $70,000 a year. Most Ohioans have seen little to no benefit, and they want to do that even more to the tune of $1.4 billion. There is so much that we could be doing with those revenues that actually decrease the cost of living for people. For example, direct property tax relief and getting money into people's pockets to pay for the property tax bills, making sure that our public schools are fully funded so that communities don't have to to continue to go back to voters to ask for another tax levy. There are very real things that we could be doing with that revenue that make a difference, and instead we're giving it away as tax breaks for people making over $100,000, and as financial packages for well over $1 billion to billionaires who want to build sports stadiums. This is a matter of choices. Budgets are about priorities, and it is clear that the priorities of the Republican majority is to give breaks to the rich and not everyday Ohioans.
People have been kind of like screaming for property tax relief. We've seen the property tax bills go up, up, up. A new proposal came out that would offer $3.5 billion in property tax relief, and I'm going to have more on this a little bit later in the show. But it's a standalone bill right now to do that and changing, the way municipalities and schools can charge by the millage and whatnot. Is there a chance that those provisions could end up in this budget at the last minute without going through kind of like the full hearing process?
So let me be clear. This is not real property tax relief. This is a $3.5 billion hit to our public school budgets and to our local communities that will primarily impact our public safety forces. So the ability to keep fire and police in our communities. And by the way, this does this with actually no skin in the game from the state. So they are pushing all of this off on our local schools and our local communities to take the budget hits in order so the state does not have to step up and do its part.
Yeah, it has a provision that it would allow municipalities to add an income tax increase or a sales tax.
Well,
increase.
again, that's not real tax relief. That is a tax shift. So they're saying that in order to make up this revenue, you have to go and raise income taxes, local income taxes, and local property taxes. If you were able to, many communities don't have the tax base to be able to do that for those other alternative forms. So what that means in practice is that they then have to cut services, primarily in the form of public safety services, like reducing the number of cops you have and the number of firefighters that you have.
In the days that are left leading up to a possible vote, either next Wednesday or Thursday, what are these next days going to be like in terms of, getting this negotiation done to have a final bill to present to the governor?
Yeah, well, unfortunately for the public, a lot of this happens behind closed doors. And so often what we will see in conference committee are pieces of policy that have not been well vetted, have not been publicly debated, and they will often end up in the conference committee report. I have some hope that maybe there will be some small improvements, but I think overall this budget is going to continue to be problematic. And when it moves to the governor's desk, the next question will be, what will he veto? Because he has the ability to do line item vetoes. And, that will be the next point, I think, for advocacy for the public.
Well, I believe this is going to be the last time I get to talk to you on this show as leader. So I just did want to say thank you also for being accessible and being willing to appear on the show to answer the questions.
Thank you, Doug.
I appreciate it. And best wishes on the future.
Thanks.
Well, still ahead on Face the State, as we were talking about, a new measure to give Ohioans more than $3 billion in property tax relief. But at what cost? Schools and police say it will hurt those they serve. Hear from both sides. Plus, under a new bill, a woman would be charged with homicide if she has an abortion. The debate over the Ohio Prenatal Equal Protection Act. Ohio lawmakers on both sides of the aisle say one of the biggest concerns they hear from their constituents is about high property taxes. They agree something needs to be done, but opinions are split on a massive new tax cut proposal. The bill promises to give Ohioans $3.5 billion in property tax relief. Supporters say it gives taxpayers a break and more of a voice. Opponents say it will hurt public schools and public services.
We'll bring it first for its first official hearing.
The House Ways and Means Committee heard 2 hours of testimony on House Bill 335. It promises $3.5 billion in property tax relief for homeowners across the state. Republican State Representative David Thomas is sponsoring the bill. Why do you think HB 335 is the way to go?
Our taxpayers need direct decreases in their tax bills this January. They've had 5 years of tremendous, huge property tax increases they had no say over, and they're demanding either make big decreases, changes for the future, or we're going to change it for you.
In fact, right now, a grassroots group is collecting signatures to try to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot to abolish property taxes in Ohio. Representative Thomas's bill doesn't go that far. It would eliminate inside millages. Those are taxes school districts and local governments can levy without voter approval. Chief Robert Butler, the president of the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police, says municipalities would lose $650 million per year under the bill.
Without this reliable funding, police departments across Ohio would face hiring freezes, reduction in service, and longer response times, directly undermining our ability to keep our communities safe.
Critics say school districts also stand to lose a large portion of revenue.
When we consider the impact of this proposed legislation and combine that with the fact that the budget as it stands right now severely underfunds our public schools.
What do you say to those who say this will decimate things like schools, police, and other public services?
So I don't see the issue with giving voters the say over how this will actually work. Why can't we allow voters to have the ability to use income or sales or even actually have their voice say over property taxes?
While more than 50 individuals and organizations gave in-person or written testimony opposing the bill, one supported it in committee. Hannah Cubbins with Americans for Prosperity Ohio testified the legislation offers many positive long-term reforms.
For too long, Ohio's property taxpayers have borne the brunt of a system that allows for unvoted tax increases, unpredictable spikes in tax bills, and a growing burden on homeowners, particularly seniors and those on fixed incomes.
Wednesday's hearing was just the first official hearing for the bill, but when I asked Representative Thomas if the provisions in the legislation could end up in the state operating budget bill that's due by June 30th, he said anything's possible. Now, the challenge with rising property taxes is very real for some people. Older homeowners say they're being priced out of their homes because their property taxes are just too expensive. Sherry Smith has called her home since 2000, and she dreams of staying there forever. But skyrocketing property taxes are threatening to push her out. Back in 2000, she paid about $300 every 6 months for property taxes. Now that number has almost doubled, and she's struggling to keep up.
I can't get the food I want. I can't, you know how people go see a relative or something out of town? I can't do that anymore.
If you are elderly or permanently disabled, you can apply for the homestead exemption. It will shield the first $28,000 from taxes. Also, if you think the market value of your property is not correct, you can go to the Franklin County Board of Revision and challenge it. You'll have to bring evidence that your property value is lower than estimated. Also last week, lawmakers introduced a bill to make it a crime to get an abortion. It's called the Ohio Prenatal Equal Protection Act. Under the bill, women who have an abortion could be charged with homicide. End Abortion Ohio, a group, says the bill is about protecting babies before birth. But just 2 years ago, Ohioans passed a constitutional amendment to ensure access to abortion in our state. 10 TV's Tara Jabor talked with those on both sides of the controversial issue.
The bill would create legal protections from the moment of fertilization.
All that it does is simply identify the preborn human being as a person under the law and deserving of the equal protection of the law.
That means if a woman gets an abortion, she would be charged for killing another human being. However, there are exceptions to the law, one to save the life of the woman or two, a spontaneous miscarriage.
It gives the same protections to the preborn human being that a born human being has.
What would you say to someone in Ohio who voted to keep abortion? You know, over 50% of Ohioans voted to keep abortion.
I would say they voted for something evil. And in our country's history, there have been many times where, unfortunately, the people have desired something evil.
Rhiannon Carnes with Ohio Women's Alliance says she will fight against this bill.
Ohioans have already spoken and said that we should protect abortion access and reproductive freedom in our state, and it is now written into our state Constitution.
Carnes thinks lawmakers are wasting their time by debating the issue once again.
This is just another attempt at extremists and extremist legislatures attempting to abuse their power and authority over Ohioans.
When it comes to IVF, the bill does not directly say if IVF will be banned or not. Beigel says if the bill passes, IVF will be affected because human life will begin at fertilization.
The entire IVF industry would have to change how they handle the humans they create.
Carnes says this bill does not respect the decision that Ohio voters already made by passing the constitutional amendment. She says she wants everyone to remember that abortion is legal in Ohio.
You have the right to make the decision that is best for you and your family, and no politician has authority and power over that. Those are personal decisions.
Tara reached out to the two lawmakers sponsoring this bill. Neither got back to her for this report. Well, right now, more than 500,000 kids in our state don't know where their next meal will come from. So the group Solving Hunger Ohio is calling on state lawmakers to release $6 million that would trigger $24 million in federal money to feed children in the state. Solving Hunger Ohio wanted to bring universal meals to every school child in the state. Now it has decided to focus on the most needy children who live far below the poverty line. The organization says if Ohio lawmakers were to approve the $6 million it's asking for, 300,000 more children would get free lunch and breakfast across Ohio.
So the idea behind feeding kids in school is that you take the children, especially those who are in the highest poverty schools, and you feed them all. So you don't have to do poverty tests child by child by child. Tennessee and Ohio have very, very similar child poverty rates. Why is it that in Tennessee they're feeding twice as many of their needy kids than Ohio is? What we're trying to do is say, here's a way to do that. And there's a way for the state to get money back doing it. It's a great first step. And those 30,000 kids really can't wait.
Research from the CDC and the USDA show that children who don't go to school hungry have higher attendance and better test scores. Again, lawmakers must send their budget to the governor by June 30th. Still ahead on Face the State, making history at the State House, a flag-raising first. An Ohio bill named after a young girl who was attacked by two dogs took a major step forward this week at the State House. 12-year-old Averys Russo and her mom were there Wednesday afternoon when the Ohio House unanimously passed Averys Law. Avery was attacked during a play date last June. Since then, she has undergone 5 surgeries and another procedure is scheduled for August. Avery even testified for the bill before the House Public Safety Committee earlier this month. There she is. Averys Law would allow dog wardens to immediately seize dogs that attack. A judge would then decide if the dog should undergo training or if it should be put down. It also creates more accountability and stronger penalties for dog owners. The bill now goes to the Senate. The nation celebrated Juneteenth last week to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S. Among the celebrations, some history was made at the Ohio State House. To honor the holiday, the Junth flag was raised outside the Ohio State House. It's a historic first. The flag is now officially on the list of those allowed to fly at the State House. State Senator Herschel Craig of Columbus was instrumental in making it happen.
Today, we're really standing on the shoulders of those so many, their hopes and their dreams they did not live to see or even could have imagined what would happen today.
Juneteenth marks the day, June 19th, 1865, when slaves in Texas finally learned they were free, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth became a national holiday in 2021. Thank you for joining me this week for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. I'll see you next Sunday right back here at 11:30.